Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar. You can see the title there, placing your first equity trade. So the whole idea about placing your first trade, it's important for every trader, their very first trade, because it's the start of your long journey on your goal to becoming a consistently profitable trader. Remember what I said there, consistently profitable trader. That's your goal as a trader. So the whole gist of this presentation today is that just to simplify it for you, in the sense that there's only 4 steps basically. You know, you want to put your money into your trading account. You want to read up on the share that you're interested in, read up on the opinion, and if the opinion makes sense, then you want to press the green button and look at the prices and the volume, and that's how you start get going. So that is the whole emphasis of this presentation today, is just to get going. So I want to ask you a question. Why did you register for a equity account? Why did you go through the whole process of doing the FICA and things like that? The account is open and now you don't do anything. I find that is what's happening with a lot of people. I think a lot of people want to be in a situation where they want to know everything before they want to get started. So it's like I'm going to use the analogy of learning to ride a bicycle. Did you go to the CNA and buy a book and learn and read about the theory about learning to ride a bicycle? No, you got on the bicycle and you fell off. In other words, you got the practical experience, but also you took action. Okay, so it's the same thing with share trading. So that's the first step I want to explain, is the why. And then I also want to go one step further. What was the reasons for opening a share trading account? Some of you look at share trading as a hobby. Some of you are looking at it, you want to find out a bit more what it's all about. Some of you are just want to dabble and speculate. As I say, some of you just want to bide your time while you're in lockdown. But I want to talk to the more serious traders and investors among you. Those of you that want to create long-term wealth, as well as those of you that want to create a second income. This is what it's all about. So that's my agenda for today. I'm just going to cover very quickly. Whoops, you go back again. Beginning with the end in mind. I've stolen that idea from Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. If you can start beginning with the end in mind and work backwards to where you are today, that is the goal. Okay. So if you want to make money, how do you do that? And this is the process. So the first question you need to ask yourself is, what are you? Are you an investor or a trader? A lot of people think it's the same strategy. No, they're 2 different strategies. So it all comes down to that first point there, your time horizon. And that's the difference between an investor and a trader. An investor has a long-term buy and hold scenario, time horizon. And the reason why we talk 3 years, you see just now when we talk about capital gains tax. So if you buy a share and you hold it for 3 years, we call you an investor. If you hold anything less than 3 years, we call you a trader. So a trader, a investor, their strategy would be, as I say, a buy and hold strategy with the goal of passive management. You have to look at your portfolio once a month and tweak it from there. Whereas a trader, you need more time and what we call active management. If you're a day trader, obviously you're sitting in front of the computer the whole time and you're actively trading. Most of you will be sitting in what we call swing trading, but more leisurely approach, holding a position from 1 day up to maybe 2 weeks. And some of you might even be a bit longer, what we call position trading, from a few weeks to a few months. When it comes to the investor, your strategy be more looking at the numbers, what we call fundamental analysis. Your goal is to find value in the market, find the bargains, and obviously find those bargains and then sit on them and hope they grow over the long term. As a trader, your goal is looking at more of the charts, what we call technical analysis, and your focus is more on price action and using technical indicators to also help you with your timing decisions. Your goal as an investor is capital growth. If I buy something for 10 Rand, my goal is to hold it for longer term, and hopefully every 5 years I'm doubling my money if I'm looking at 20% growth per year. In the meantime, I'm also going to get some dividends. It's the part of the profits being paid out to shareholders, and hopefully we also a increase in the dividends every year. So that's my goal as a long-term investor: capital growth and dividend income. As a trader, I'm going to buy something at 10 Rand and sell it for 20 Rand. Sorry, sell it for 12 Rand. I want to make my 20% in a very short period of time. I reinvest, and so it goes on. So my goal is still capital growth, but more shorter term. If I'm an investor and I buy once and I never sell the share, I have low brokerage costs. As a trader, if I'm buying and selling, you must understand you will have higher brokerage costs. We'll talk about that in the next slide. Coming back to what I said just now, the reason why you want to hold the share for at least 3 years. If I buy a share today and hold it for 3 years, after 3 years, I can sell, and then capital gains tax applies. Okay, the most you'll be paying is 18%. Remember, your first 40,000 is excluded or exempted, and then as I say, the most you'll be paying is 18% capital gains tax. On income tax, on the trader side, any income you make, any profit you make will be added into your profit at the end of the year, and obviously might push into a higher tax bracket. Most you can pay there is 45%. And then when it comes to dividends, everybody pays the dividend withholding tax. So that's 20%. Yeah, so that's the first question you need to ask yourself: am I an investor or a trader? The second question, obviously, is you need to commit to your financial journey or your wealth journey by funding your account. So let's talk about that now. A lot of people just want to dabble in the market, and they're taking it the wrong way. So if you had a start of 1,000 Rand, and first of all, understand that at PSG Wealth, we don't have a minimum investment, but you must take in consideration the trading costs. So the minimum trading cost is 98 Rand per trade as a direct client. So you can see there, you'll be paying 15% VAT on the brokerage, and then the settlement fees of 8.25 Rand, 15% VAT on the settlement fee, and then there's the government levy, what they call a securities transfer tax, which is 0.25% on the opening leg or the purchasing leg of the transaction. So you're going to pay 2.50 Rand on your 1,000 Rand. So your total trading costs is 124.69 Rand. But as a percentage of your 1,000 Rand, you must understand that your share must move up 12.47% to break even on costs. Okay, what I'm trying to make, the bigger the transaction, the cheaper it becomes. You see there on the 10,000 Rand transaction, anything is a bit more is obviously I'm going to be paying 0.25% on 10,000 Rand, and that's why it's a bit higher. But look at it as a percentage. My cursor in here, as a percentage, my trading cost is only 1.47%, and the share can easily move up 1.47% one morning, and you're breaking even on costs. So please, I suggest start with a minimum of 10,000 Rand. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, those of you that want to play around more with the brokerage fees and things like that, on the PSG Online website, once you've logged in with your username and password, go click on cash accounts, okay, and then click on brokerage calculator. So that's step 2. What's important is to change the figures here. Okay, as a direct client, you pay 0.9% on the first 25,000, and then it's a sliding scale. But what's important is that figure there, pay 98 Rand. That's a minimum transaction. So this will help you play around more of the costs in that, and see where everything's going. Okay. Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritties. So first thing you want to do is to narrow down the choice, and there's 2 ways to look at this. First of all, I suggest is to narrow down the choice is to simplify the workspace. So this is the process. You'll go to the PSG Online website, you log in with your username and password, and once you've logged in, you need to click on the Investor tab. If the Investor tab doesn't come up, if the Investor page doesn't come up, the trading platform, like this here, looks up in 4 quadrants, it means that your pop-ups are blocked. You need to enable your pop-ups. So I suggest that you use Google Chrome, but it's a bit more stable platform to use, number 1. And number 2, I suggest just go Google how to enable pop-ups. But anyway, you should have a screen coming up, and this is what we call the trading platform. As I said, the idea is to remove the clutter and just simplify the workspace. So it's easier to work with 1 screen than to work with 4 screens. And how we're going to change this to 1 screen. So in the bottom right corner, you see it's called quotes, and quotes is another word for watch list. So when I mean by narrow down the choice is you're going to create a watch list for yourself, make the universe of shares smaller, more manageable, and you feel that you won't be so overwhelmed. Okay, so step number 1 is go click on options on the menu toolbar. Scroll down on the drop down menu until you find options. You click on that little button, you'll find that one of these quadrants will change, and then you can change the layouts. I suggest you just click on the little radio button on the side here where it says 1, okay, and it'll change the layout to one screen. Just remember, when you select the little radio button, scroll down a bit lower and click on the change layout button. So you'll have one screen. What you do then, you go click on this drop down arrow key next to the portfolio, for example, in this slide, okay, and then you'll find a drop down menu comes up again. Then you go select quote. Okay, quote, as I say, is watch space or watch list. Let me just move back again. So the first thing you need to do, next to the green buy button, if you highlight your mouse over it on that little eye, it will say watch list. Okay, so click on that little watch list, and from there you can start adding the shares and you start creating your own watch list. So let's say, for example, you know the share code for Capitec is CPI, and you know the share code for Exaro is EXX, and you know the share code is for Sasol's SAL. You type in the share code and you just click on that little, what do we call that, play button or reload button to add the shares onto this list. Okay, what you need to do then, go back again and go click on that I to bring up this drop down menu, and you go click on save watch list. Okay, and then you give it appropriate name. I've called my little watch list here hot stocks. You can have 5 of your own watch lists. Okay, but those of you that don't know anything about the market and don't even know the names of the shares, I suggest go click on that I again, and you use the system watch list as a starting point. Okay, so let's say, for example, you select the top 40. Top 40 is the top 40 large cap stocks. Okay, the first thing you want to do, I always want to like to use the top 40 as my default landing page. So I go back to options, scroll down to save settings, and I go save. Every time I go into the screen here, it will always be the one layout as well as my top 40 watch list. Okay, so that's just a suggestion how to do it. But what's great about this now, for those of you that are just starting out from an orientation point of view, you want to know what the share codes are. So I can see the share name, there's ABSA, and the share code for ABSA is ABG. Scroll down the list there, I can see, there's BHP Billiton, that's the share code, BHP. Okay, so this is how you can get to know the share codes. So write down the shares that you might be interested in. That's number one. Another way of looking at it is to click on the ranking column. There's a ascending and descending, especially the percentage movement. So if I click on descending, I want to see which shares have fallen. Me personally, I get excited when share prices are falling because I want to buy the bottom of the cycle, buy low and sell high. So these are just highlighting opportunities for you. Some of you might look at the opposite and look for shares that are really flying. If the shares move up 10% so far this day, something's happening with that share. Okay, so it's a nice way of initially creating an initial watch list for yourself. Okay, by clicking on the share codes, or looking at the share codes and looking at where the activity is. There's also saying in the market, where there's smoke, there's fire. So something's happening with the share. That's a starting point. So what's also important from our watch list, and the watch list I always say is like putting yourself in the starting blocks. If I click on that, what we call in the second column, it's what they call the action icons menu, those little buttons there, you'll find another drop-down menu appears. Okay, and from there, I can also look at various things. So first of all, if I click on chart, it'll bring up a very quick, simple chart, and from there I can also add in the chart period and chart layouts and or the chart line types, and add indicators. We'll go into more detail a bit later. Also from that actions icon menu, I can select news, and news is the stock exchange news service. So it's the latest headlines. So for example, on Capitec here, I can see, there was the trading statement that came out, and a few days later was the results and things like that. Okay, so it's a nice way to keep up to date what's happening with the company. Also very important, from that actions menu, actions icons menu, I can also go click on a buy button. Okay, and it automatically brings up this dialog box. So the next step after committing your funds is now to start your trading journey. So yeah, I'm looking at MTN, for example. So I can see it, and I'll go into more detail in a few slides time, where I can see the bids and the offers and the ask. If I was really wanting to buy some MTN shares, I can go buy 100 shares. You can see it automatically puts the price in there for me, and I can see it's going to cost me about 5,000 Rand. Okay, if I click on buy now to go into the market, I'm a willing buyer. I need a willing seller, and if the order's matched, the share appears in my portfolio. So that's how easy it is. Okay, so we'll go into more detail a bit later on in a few slides time. So I've created my initial watch list. I want to find out a bit more about these companies. Best thing to do is to go back on the top of your screen. You'll find these two tabs. One of them will be for the PSG Online website. So go back to the PSG Online website and you'll find the Research Hub. And in the Research Hub, you'll find what we call the recommendations, the fundamental recommendations. This is a starting point for you. It's highlighting in this scenario at least 40 different companies that you can do further analysis on. Top left there, the best quant ideas. These are the large cap stocks. On the far right here is the best quant small cap stocks. You can see in the middle of the screen, these are our latest research available from our research team. This is local and offshore. Okay, bottom left here, those of you that are more value investors, good quality companies that are undervalued. This is your starting point. It's highlighting for you the top 10. Okay. Bottom right here is those of you looking for companies paying out high dividends. That's a starting point for you to do further investigation. So that's number one. It's a starting point. Number two, I suggest go click on the search button, and this will bring up what we call the default criteria. If I click on this undervalued quality stocks, it'll spit out a whole list of companies for me. It's not only looking at top large cap stocks, I'm looking at the whole market. You see based on the PEG ratio, these companies are green, and you can see is the legend. I'm looking for undervalued companies. Okay, I don't want to go into too much detail about all these different financial ratios. There's a lot of other webinars I've done in the past. Right, my last summary slide will give you that link to that webinar, to those tutorials as well as those webinars. Okay. And another way of also finding opportunity is to click on the filters. Now, if I want to look at, for example, the banking sector, so I can type in their banks or click on this drop down arrow key and go select the sector, banks. Now I can compare one bank share, Absa to Nedbank to Standard Bank, and see which one, what their price is right now, what's the PE ratios, and things like that. Okay, again, another source for you to create add shares onto your initial watch list. Okay, so that is what we call gathering fundamental information. If you want to gather some technical information, now we go back to the trading platform. And I changed my radio button here to chart. Okay, and from there I can add in the share code, and then I can select the different types. I can have a line chart, or a bar chart, or candlestick chart, and also add in various other indicators like moving averages. Here I've got a 5-day and a 12-day moving average. This is on SASL, S-O-L SASL. You see for a while SASL was moving sideways. Oops, let me go back. SASL was moving sideways, and now the share price has broken up above the moving average. Looks like it's going to break out of the sideways range here, and my stochastic indicator is also pointing up, so there's a high probability of the share price moving up. So right now, if I decided to buy shares in SASL, I can go buy it and say, okay, well, there's opportunity. Okay, so how do I buy it? And that's where the next state comes in. And this is where the emphasis is on this whole presentation today, is placing that trade. Okay, so the first step is go click on a green button. So if you had to go back to those 4 screens, we'll go look for one of those workspaces that has a green buy button. Doesn't matter which one it is, you click on the green buy button and you'll have this dialog that pops up. So it's called create buy order. So first of all, you want to check is make sure you're trading on the right account. So some of you have more than one account, might have an equity account, might have a single stock futures or offshore account. Make sure you're trading on the right account. That's number one. Number two, we need to add in the share code. And from our watch list, I know the share code is SOL. Okay, if you don't know what the share code is, type the whole name out. Okay, it's SASL, S-A-S-O-L, and you go click on that magnifying glass or that search button, it'll pop up a list, and from that list you can choose. What's important, if you're trading on an equity account, make sure it's always sol.jse. Okay, so the first step you want to do after that is, I remember I've done my fundamental analysis, I've done my technicals, now I can also just look at my bids and offers. Okay, so this is showing you the bids and offers, what's happening right now. But first of all, the bid price is what the buyers are willing to pay for it. So right now, and it's always in cents. So right now, there are buyers at 53 Rand 77. Okay, so those are the bid price. The ask is what the sellers are willing to take for it. So you can see at the moment, there's the sellers are at the asking price is 53 Rand 85. We work out the difference there very quickly. You can see it's 12 cents difference. Now 12 cents on 100 shares is 120. If you really want to buy the share in a hurry, I suggest you use what they call a market order, and I'll show that in the next slide. But some of you want to stipulate your price, then you use a limit order. Okay, so it depends on how many shares you want to buy. Remember, you do this on paper beforehand. If I want to allocate what you saw just now with MTN, I want to allocate roughly about 5,000 Rand. 100 shares will be at 50 Rand, will be about 5,000 Rand. So calculate all that kind of stuff on paper beforehand, and then use your brokerage calculator, also mentioned earlier. So in this scenario, I also want to go buy some 100 shares of Cecil at 53 Rand. Now, if I use a limit offer, yeah, we have to says a pricing instruction. If I choose limit, okay, just understand that limits will allow you to name your price, and if the price hits it, then it's usually executed. But understand, limit prices are not guaranteed. If you put a limit order in, a limit price is never guaranteed. Okay, I suggest, and you'll see in the next slide, if you really want to get the order, is to use a market order, and I'll explain that in the next slide. If you want to use a limit order, then I suggest it's married to, when it comes to lifetime, because limit might take a while for that to be, you might be way out of the market. Okay, so let's say, for example, the market is trading at the moment at 53.82, but let's say, for example, you want to buy it at 50 Rand. You don't want to wait for the share to come to 50 Rand, then I suggest you use this here, get till cancelled. It means it stays on the system until it's either matched or you cancel the order. Okay, in other words, you don't want to lose your place in the queue. That's what a good till cancel order would be. Okay. And then I click on buy, goes into my order pad. It will wait until such time as the order is matched. Remember, I need a willing seller to agree to my price. Okay. So that's what happens with a limit order. If you use a market order, okay, you'll see that the order price here gets grayed out. It automatically will put in the last selling price or the asking price. So you got a higher opportunity to execute immediately at the current price. Okay, as long as there's willing buyers and sellers, the market orders will get filled. Okay, market orders are used when there's certainty of execution as is a priority over the price of execution. Okay, so if you want to get the price, you want to get the share, then buy it. As I said just now, 120 or a 12 cents difference is not a big issue. So use a market order. Okay. So very simple, exactly the same thing. Click on buy order, you got a high probability of that order being executed. Okay. So the order will end up in your order pad, and if it's matched, then it goes into your portfolio, and that's how you start building a portfolio of shares over the long term. Okay. Many of you would like to know, once I bought a share, how do I limit my losses? So it's what we call a stop loss. On this platform here, we call it contingency order. So how do I place a contingency order? Okay, in the bottom left-hand pad, okay, you'll find that you got your order pad. Again, you just select that little drop-down arrow key, and then change that now to contingency order pad. And from the contingency order pad, you click on the sell button. Because remember, the idea is that I bought the share now. If the share drops to a certain level, I want to sell. I want to cut my losses. That's what this means. So once I've set up my order, this is where the order will appear. Remember, it's a potential sell order. So how do I do that? So you can see here, create contingency sell order. Again, first thing you want to do, make sure that you're looking at the right account. I put in the share code. There I can see the bids and offers again. What's important now, confirm contingency sell order on Cecil. Contingency base price or price base, I suggest you always use last. And remember, in this scenario, if the share price drops to a certain level, less than or equal to, let's say, for example, I bought it at 65, and if it drops to 60 Rand, I want to cut my losses and get out. So I put in there 60 Rand in cents, okay? How many shares I've got? Okay, remember I bought a share really, got 100 shares. If it drops to 60 rand, it will trigger and go into the market as a potential sell. Order price is also very important. Set it slightly lower. You can see it's not the same price. Set it slightly lower. Okay, in this scenario, remember I'm setting the limit. And if I'm setting the limit, then I want to use a good tool cancelled. Okay, because this is way out the market at the moment. Okay, so very important that I use that good tool cancelled order. It's a stay in the market or potential sell until I cancel it. If it's a good till day or good for the day, at 5 o'clock it gets cancelled. That's what's only good for the day, or they call it a day order. Okay. So guys, I hope that made some sense to you guys. Let me just quickly go through the summary, just to reiterate what I've been saying. Beginning of the end in mind. Why did you get involved as an investor or trader? What are you? Are you an investor or trader? Those are very important questions because that dictates your strategy in the market. Starting capital, the bigger the transaction, the cheaper it becomes. So I suggest start a minimum of 10,000 Rand. As a starting point, narrow down the choice. Remember, there's two ways to look at it. Simplify the workspace, work with one layout. That's number one. And number two, start with your watch list, because that'll put you in the starting blocks. It also simplifies the market for you. Instead of looking at 450 stocks, you want to bring that down, universal shares down to maybe 25 stocks. You become first a generalist and then become a specialist in those different companies. So from your watch list also, you understand which companies to look for and looks at the fundamental information. Go back onto the research hub, go look for those undervalued quality companies, and then fine tune your watch list. That's the whole idea. Technical information. What is the trend? That's the main thing. You want to trade in the direction of the trend. If the share price is up over the long term, you want to trade in that trend. Okay. So look at the price, look at the volume also when it comes to the order pad. Okay, price is obviously where the price is trading right now, and volume is the number of shares traded. If you want to buy 100 shares, the rule of thumb, you want to buy at least 5 times, or you want to buy into a share that's trading at least 5 times more than you want to buy. So on average, if you want to buy 100 shares, your share must be trading on average at least 500 shares. That helps you stick to stock. It's the shares that are free dealing, that are not illiquid, that are tradable. If you want to sell, you know there'll be a willing buyer. And then place the trade, bids and asks. We've spoken already. The bids are the buyers and asks are the sellers. Please use market orders if you want to execute quickly. Good for the day orders. Most of you will be using good for the day orders. This is a day order. If the order's not matched at 5 o'clock, it'll be cancelled or expires. You usually go place the order again. If you want to use limit orders, use good to cancel. Just understand, for the order to be matched, you need a willing seller if you're a buyer. And then very important, if you're a trader, always use a contingent order to limit your losses. Okay. So in conclusion, to start your wealth journey, if you're complete novice, I suggest go look at our online tutorials. You can see that's where you'll find the link. Okay. And also you can go learn more about some past webinars by looking at that link there. So this webinar is being recorded. I'll be sending out the recording as well as the PDF. So from my side, happy trading. If you want to get a hold of us, that's our email address. You can use wealth@psg.co.za, or you can also contact us on the toll-free 0860 000 368. But from my side, thank you very, very much for being on this webinar. And there's my disclaimer. Everything I spoke about today is for education purposes only.